What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Burke, aka Dan's Great here, and welcome back to more Final Fantasy X content. In recent times I've been investigating glitches that are present in different versions of the game, and recently I recreated a pretty epic glitch that is present in the original Japanese version of the game. This glitch allows you to get the Sun Sigil for Tidus and complete the Chocobo race in under 0 seconds extremely easily. If you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and I'll put in like an annotation / link in the top right so you can check that out before proceeding with this one, or maybe afterwards if you want to carry on for now. But in this video we're going to be looking at what I believe is the single biggest and most radical glitch that's ever been present in Final Fantasy X. So in order to trigger this glitch I have to travel to Bhed home, and during that time I'll give you some background about this glitch and what you need to do to be able to activate it. So let's get started. Final Fantasy X is not a game that's particularly well known for having a lot of glitches. So Final Fantasy VII, for example, is infamous for having a huge number of glitches, and it can break the game in various different ways. 10 is definitely not like that. I would say it's surprisingly tight in that sense. There really aren't a lot of huge glitches in this game, and especially in more recent versions of the game they're almost non-existent. So the previous glitch I showed with the Chocobo race was only present in the original Japanese version of the game, and this glitch, which is the biggest one, is only present in the international version of the game. So the glitches themselves are already few and far between, and they almost always got patched between different versions as well. But the one I'm about to show you now is definitely interesting. It's been known about for a very long time, but there aren't a huge number of videos about it, and I'm sure there's people from my community that haven't seen it before and that are curious to see in action. So it's something I definitely wanted to share with you guys, and I'd also never actually activated the glitch myself before, so I'm also curious to just try it out and see how it's going to work, like how easy it is to trigger and what the effects are going to be once I'm done with it. Okay then, so for those of you who are unfamiliar, the glitch we are going to be looking at today is known as the Home glitch or the New Game Plus glitch. New Game Plus glitch is not really that accurate, but I can see where the name comes from. What we're going to be doing is basically re-entering Home and playing it as if we entered it for the first time, with all of our stats and all of our equipment and aeons from completing the game the first time. So this is something that you can activate in the international version of Final Fantasy X on the PS2. You can literally have everything like max stats, all of the aeons, all the celestial weapons and everything, and you can come back to Beaconell Island and use this glitch to go back to Bhed home. And because you're not ordinarily allowed to revisit home once you've been through there in the story, once you activate the glitch and return there, you're able to play the game again from that point onwards with everything that you've collected from the rest of the game, and of course you also get to have Yuna in your party as well, even though ordinarily she wouldn't have been there. So you can see that there's a sort of New Game Plus kind of element, and it's definitely interesting to be able to have Yuna in the party for parts of the game where she shouldn't be in it, and to also of course come back with all of your stats and items, equipment and aeons from the rest of the game that you wouldn't normally have been allowed to get. So how do we activate this glitch? That is the main question. Now, when I used to see it, I used to think that it was something that was very difficult to do, but in testing for this video I managed to do it pretty quickly the first time, and I'll see if I'm able to do it again during this recording. So what you need up until this point is the right copy of the game, Final Fantasy X International on the PS2, and you also need a save file in which you haven't beaten Dark Ifrit yet. That's also important, otherwise the glitch won't work. Okay, so normally, of course, what we all know happens when you approach these two guys to try to get back into Home is this. They block your path, and there is absolutely no way through here. It's a brick wall. No matter what you do, they will always trigger this conversation and send you back on your way. And ordinarily, the international version is no different. You can try, you know, to sort of slip through the side or do any of that kind of stuff, and you'll get sent back. But clearly some people love to push the boundaries, and someone figured out that for this particular version there's actually a way to slip past these guys and get back into Home. Now, I recreated this once during testing and it wasn't too difficult, but I remember back in the day when I first saw this in like 2007, 2008, I remember some people saying it was actually quite difficult and a bit tricky to trigger. But the first time was pretty easy. Let me see if I can do it again. Now, one thing to note is that Circle is the confirm button in International, and X is the cancel button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go past him as closely as possible and sort of mash circle once he starts talking. and that should help me slip past. So you can see what's going on there, and I managed to slip through. So that was literally my first attempt. So you go close to him, you keep pressing up with the D-pad or with the analog stick, and you have to mash circle. And once you do that, you can bypass those guys, and you can return to home. So let's see what happens when you return to home in a time when you shouldn't. Now, for reference, this particular save file is one that I found online. I literally googled Final Fantasy X International PS2 save, and this one came up, and it worked just fine. But I believe you can modify your existing save files if you want to use one of your own. So you have to mess with the game ID, and you have to input the game ID for the international version, and you should be able to get your saves recognized in the international version too. But you can also just download one if you want to play around with it and just see how it all works. So this is someone else's save file. One thing I did do is give myself 99 of every item just so I could mess around with it later. And also for key items, I got rid of... This person doesn't have any celestial weapons or anything, by the way. They've completed the story and they're ready for the post-game, basically. I deliberately got rid of Bhed primers 19, 20 and 21 because these three are the ones that you get at home. So you might be wondering what is one practical reason for being able to do this other than just having a bit of fun. Hopefully the Bhed primers that you would have missed in home, normally you can't get them again and you have to start a new save file to be able to do it. This is technically one way to do it without having to restart the entire game if you're not using any hacks or cheats or anything like that. In the year 2022 it's obviously a bit redundant, but back in the day this would have been a viable way to regain those Bhed primers that you missed out on if you did do that the first time. So yes, we are back in home, my friends. This is something that you can do in the international version of the game. It's pretty insane. Okay then, let's have a look at what's in store here. The first thing I'll do is I'll check on that Bhed primer to see if it's there. Yes, it is. So there you go. If you missed this the first time through, you're able to get it again as a result of the glitch without having to cheat your save file. But of course things are going to play out differently because you have characters that you shouldn't have, and you have equipment you shouldn't have, you have aeons that you shouldn't have at this stage. So there is this kind of weird mismatch of times when the game kind of knows that you've been through here already, and also times when it doesn't realize you've been through here already. So some things are going to play out as if you're doing it for the first time, and certain things are going to be skipped entirely. So let's have a look and see how things are going to play out once I enter home. This is something I've never done before. I've never activated the glitch. I've never played through afterwards as well, so I'm going to be finding out what's going on here as well. Of course I can't play the entire rest of the game, but I just want to start things off and at least give you an idea of how it works. So you would have noticed first of all that the fight that normally triggers here, you get the bombs dropping from the ceiling. That hasn't happened. So the game knows that you've been here before and it hasn't triggered that battle, for example. Let's keep going. So one of my main focuses here, of course, is the Bhed primers, making sure I get the ones that I missed. So let's head into these rooms. So these ones have already been done. If you've done them before... Oh, there you go. Yep, so that primer is there too. And especially in the early days of Final Fantasy X, it was brutal. If you missed that one, you really did have to just restart the entire game to be able to get it. I have no encounters equipped, so that's one thing that you can obviously do here that previously wasn't an option. Kimari's got a peaceful armlet, so it's all good. And this is the final primer. So I am pretty certain that the primers that you missed out on are going to appear here, and you'll be able to get them as a result of the glitch. So that's one legit practical way in which the glitch can help your save, if for whatever reason you're playing the international version. Even if in the year 2022 it's definitely a very, very tiny minority of people that will be playing this game using the international version on the PS2. So let's actually trigger a cutscene and see what happens. None of the stuff has happened so far, but I'm pretty sure the cutscene now is going to trigger. So normally we shouldn't have Yuna, but let's put Yuna in the party and see what's going to happen here.
This place done for.
Okay, so this scene continues as normal, and this battle triggers as normal, but Yuna, for example, a little bit glitchy, but she's still in the battle. She's made it, so that's all good. Let's mess around with these guys for a little bit. I'm going to use a regular spell with Yuna. Wow, okay, she's got Flare and Ultima. Fine. So her animations and stuff seem to be working fine. That's good. But of course what I'm going to do is summon. Normally in here, summoning is impossible. There is no scenario in which you are able to summon in the normal game because she's just simply not here during this part of the story and you're never allowed to return. So let's summon the Harmon. So obviously this is an example of one of the reasons why it's cool to be able to trigger this glitch, because you get to play the rest of the game in a way that you couldn't have previously. And especially for the sections where you couldn't have Yuna, to be able to have her in the party again is definitely cool. Yeah, so this particular view is like a view that you normally would never get to see. It's kind of cool to see how wide, this wide perspective of this room is it's kind of dope. Let's use the Impulse. Honestly, the stats on this save are pretty low. It's like 43 hours, but the stats are weak. But Bahama is still plenty strong enough to take stuff out. You can basically play the entire rest of the game from here onwards. And up until the point where you get to the finale of the story again, you have the ability to use things that you didn't use before. So in that sense, it's super cool. Okay, so of course, once I got to this particular stage, I couldn't resist putting the game into like ×3 speed and trying to rush through some of the rest of the game and experiment with a few different things. So what you'll see in the background is a few different experiments that I did while I was trying to do the quote-unquote New Game Plus. And because of course you're able to do things that you shouldn't be able to do, that can sometimes cause some havoc. And so it's one of these things where if you are going to try this and mess around with it, I definitely recommend using save states and saves as often as possible. Now of course one of the main ways in which you can do things a little bit differently is to summon things that you couldn't previously summon. And that's one of the things I tried to mess around with the most. Now unfortunately it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. There are going to be certain things where if you try to do them, the game is just going to break and it's not going to let you make any progress. An example of this is if you try to summon a tool against Evray, because again, in that battle, you're not supposed to have Yuna, you're not supposed to be able to summon at all, and even though it worked in the home battles that we had, when you try to fight Evray, the game just doesn't allow you to try to summon there. Yuna gets stuck in her running animation, and there's nothing you can do about it. So unfortunately, it doesn't always work. One of the most interesting ones I found while I was testing was fighting Seymour Natus, and if you summon Anima while you fight Seymour Natus, some pretty weird things happen. Fortunately enough, there is a way to continue the battle without making it completely glitch out and make it unplayable, but you actually get to keep Anima as a summon against Seymour, and the game doesn't seem to really realize that it's a summon, and so you still have your party members and you have Anima at the same time, which is really, really weird. Not only that, you can even summon a second Aeon to go alongside Anima at the same time, and it turns into absolute madness. So if you do have a save state before Seymour Natus, it is fun to mess around with that as well. So those are the kind of things that you can mess around with this particular glitch. The Final Fantasy Wiki does have a pretty extensive list of things that happen when you try to continue using the Al Bhed home glitch. You can 100% just continue the game and get back to where you were before, but there are situations in which you can soft lock the game if you do the wrong thing at the wrong time. The only major problem that I've seen so far, and is definitely worth checking, the Final Fantasy Wiki mentions that if in the Via Purifico section you locked the gate in your first run, then when Yuna comes back, she's not able to get through to the other side to continue the game. So there is a chance that you can lock yourself out of making progress, so that's something you have to be careful of. But other than that, everything else I've seen is just soft locking the game, like for example if you try to summon against Evre. So there we have it, my friends. That is the biggest glitch that exists in Final Fantasy X. It's definitely an interesting one, and especially when it was first discovered, I think it blew a lot of people's minds, because a New Game Plus is something that's not really a thing in Final Fantasy. It's very rare that a Final Fantasy game has something like a New Game Plus. So in like 2007 when I first saw it, the ability to skip those guys in home and restart the game from there with all of my equipment and all of my stats and all of my Aeons from my end game was an amazing prospect. I'm pretty sure it was Crow132 who was the first YouTuber that I saw upload the Al Bhed home glitch, and it was just so cool to see, and I wished at the time that I had like an international copy to mess around and try this myself, but unfortunately I didn't have a copy of the game, and I didn't really know too much about the emulation scene, so I couldn't recreate the thing myself. But here I am 15 years after I discovered the glitch myself, sharing it with you guys, and I got a chance to mess around with some of the rest of the game and see how it all looks. So that's the deal, my friends. I hope you guys enjoyed it. From here on, what I'll do probably is to make one more glitch video, because like I said, there really aren't that many glitches for Final Fantasy X, and I don't want to milk the format too much, because honestly there's technically maybe 8 to 10 more glitches that I could show, but each one of them on their own is not really video worthy in my opinion, so I don't want to just make more individual glitch videos for the sake of it that are like 3 minutes long. So I'll probably do like a compilation of some more minor, small glitches to show you guys as well. I mean, some of them are still pretty cool, and I definitely want to show them, but they probably won't have their own dedicated video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. There will be more glitch content coming in the future, but for now, I will see you soon, and thank you for watching once again. Take care.